What is going on YouTube? Chuck back here with Roscoe's Ramblings, trying to get back on schedule. I know I said I was going to make a pre-draft video, didn't do that. But for a quick recap, I am super stoked at the draft that we made. I love that we didn't reach for a quarterback. I love that we are building the roster from the inside out, as it were, with the defensive and offensive line being prioritized. Kenneth Walker looks to be an absolute beast. I think that he has the potential to be a stud. You never know with running backs, though. Sometimes high quality picks come out and they don't do much, or sometimes they pop for a year or two and that's it. I really think he can be nasty. Charles Cross, best pass protector in the draft, is what they were saying. Anyway, this video wasn't supposed to be a recap of the draft. This video is supposed to be a win-loss on the upcoming season, the 2022 season. I was inspired to make this video due to all of the hate that I've been hearing from sportscasters and podcasters and video makers alike. Just the natural consensus is that Seattle's a bottom 3 team this year, and I think that narrative is false. I'm going to give you predictions for the full 17-game season. Yes, there's some homerism, of course. I would never build my channel on the back of being 100% not biased at some point, because I'm Seattle through and through, and if you've followed any of my content, you would know that. So week 1 starts us off. The Russell Wilson return is happening week 1, everybody. Week 1. No room to breathe. It's just hot right out of the gates, which is good and bad. Russ won't have any real game time with this number 1 offense in a real meaningful season, game. Preseason, who knows how much he's going to play. That's something to watch. I'm pretty curious. But I think that game is going to be passionate on both sides. I think Russ is going to want to prove a point. I think Pete Carroll's going to want to prove a point. I'm curious to see who starts week 1 for the Hawks, but I do give us the win there just because it's opening at home. We're traditionally very good at that. We're going to have all the juice on our end. Russell Wilson's going to, be celebrated for 3 to 5 minutes, and then it's just going to be mayhem from there. I think that Seattle will be able to capitalize on, hopefully this running game that we're trying to put together. That's a W. Week number 2, Seattle versus San Francisco, out in the Bay. We won this game last year. I have us down as an L. Tough game, but I think the Niners win that game. They're stout on their front 7, obviously. Who knows who will be starting for them? It might be Jimmy G, might be Trey Lance at that point. Week 2 for the Niners is going to be a question mark. Division games, always toss-up, but I did give us an L because their front 7's insane regardless of who they have at quarterback, and that'll be a tough matchup. Week 3, Atlanta versus Seattle. That's where the new-look Falcons, I guess you would call them too, with Marcus Mariota, travel up to Seattle. I have the Seahawks winning that game. I think we just have the better roster overall, and Marcus Mariota is a good, not great quarterback. He could beat us, absolutely. He's the kind of dual threat guy that can come out and win a game, no doubt. But overall, I think we have the better roster. We're at home. We just came off of a bad loss from San Francisco, so we're going to want to turn it around. That's a W. So 2-1, right? Now, okay, so that first game, I told you, I'm a little bit biased, but I do think we can win that. 2-1 through week 3. All right, then we're on the road, Seattle versus the Lions, Detroit. That's a winnable game. That is another franchise to keep your eye out on, though. They are getting extremely talented on both ends of the ball and young. Looks like they're making some good moves. Jared Goff's probably not the dude. If he balls this year, then good for him, and it takes that team, to somewhere where they didn't think they were going to be. If he sucks, then the Lions have, equity once again for the draft. So on their way, both of these teams are in a rebuild, as it were, right? And it's just the adjustments. It's what you have to do year by year. I did give Seattle the win on this one for sure. There's no reason why we shouldn't win, even if it isn't Detroit. Next up is Seattle versus New Orleans. Traveling to the Mercedes Dome is never friggin' easy. Or it's not even the Mercedes Dome anymore, but the Superdome is never an easy fight. Even if it is Jameis under center, they still have Kamara. Who knows what Michael Thomas is going to look like? Jarvis Landry's lighting up mini camp, but they always say that stuff about everybody. So that could be a very, very good matchup. Cam Jordan's he's a monster. He's tough to handle off the edge. That defense is still pretty loaded. I gave Seattle the loss there. That's a toss-up, but the last time we played Kamara, he just absolutely just ran all over, well, caught the ball, ran all over, whatever you want to say. He was just everywhere. That guy is fantastic. And when we can't stop dual threat running backs, we are in a tough position. So, loss. Don't like it. Loss. Next week, Arizona is coming to Seattle. Now, they have beaten us, I want to say, 4 out of the last 5 years, if not 5 out of the last 6. It's been a bad streak of Arizona coming up and beating the Seahawks in our house. That ends in 2022. I have us taking that win. There's, the uncertainty with Kyler. He's back at practice, whatever, but he's still going to be arguing for his contract. They did not get any better offensively, I don't think. Lost Chase Edmonds. A.J. Green's another year older. Tristan Kirk's gone away. They did trade for Hollywood Brown. First-round pick for Hollywood Brown. Don't know if he was worth that at that point, but they're trying the whole link-up, buddies from college. It's worked in Miami, and it's certainly worked in Cincinnati with Burrow and Chase. So I gave Seattle the win on that. We are so due for that win. It is unnerving. All right. Next up is Seattle versus the LA Chargers. This is where there's a stretch of games here, guys, that it doesn't look promising for Seattle as far as base roster. Who knows? Injuries are the great equalizer. There's also just the mojo of the season and how far you can ride the wave of where you're at. So Seattle versus the Chargers, in all seriousness, that should be a pretty easy game for the Chargers. I like the Seattle secondary. I'm really hype on them actually going into this year, but Justin Herbert is the man. He is. He is a stud, and even though Seattle fans will take over that stadium because that's just how that stadium rolls, it's always the away team that fills the seats. The Chargers will win that game. That's a loss for Seattle. Boo, but a loss. All right, back home next week against the Giants. All right, so the Giants, to their credit, look like they're making some pretty good moves. They're doing the right thing with Daniel Jones and kind of riding him out this year to see what happens, or seeing if they're going to go with a guy next year or whatever. That roster retinkered the offensive line, so that could be good, especially at this part of the season. We're, 8 weeks in at this point, 7-8 weeks in. So I don't think I think both of these teams are in the same boat. Decent rosters, not insanely good rosters, quarterbacks that they're unsure of with the ability to change it next year. Seattle for the win, for sure. Should be the better roster overall. Should just pound the rock against what is not a great Giants defense. Get the win. All right. And then, I'm not going to lie, everybody, it doesn't look promising for Seattle after this. And this is as non-biased as I could be, because I want to create good content here, and I want everybody to, agree or disagree with me on their own merit, and I need to be more logical than, with my heart, because anybody can, write a list with their heart. You got to be able to, look at it non-objectively. Anyway, all right, so Seattle versus Arizona. So this time we go to the desert, and very rarely do you ever sweep a divisional opponent. That's a loss. I think Arizona's pissed about dropping one in Seattle. Kyler jitterbugs all over the place. We miss a couple of tackles, and that's a 24-21 style game. Whatever. Arizona wins. Seattle loss. Then another road trip, this time way across the country, go face Tom Brady and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. That is going to be a telling game for Seattle, depending on where we are in the season at that point. If we have as many W's under our belt as I forecast at this point, which is, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? Okay, so yeah, 5. We'd be feeling ourselves pretty good. We'd be at the 500 mark, looking to, try to make a move in the NFC West. If we lose to Tampa Bay, which I have us predicted doing, it opens the floodgates in the negative way that everybody says that the season's going to go for us. It's brutal, you guys. That lineup is tough. All right. Tampa Bay beats Seattle. It's Tom Brady at home against a secondary that may or may not be good or bad, right? Largely on Quandre Diggs, stud. Jamal Adams, not the best in coverage. Who knows if he can be healthy? I won't name off everybody else, but we do have some cover guys, but Tom Brady's better than every single one of them. Yeah, Tampa for the win. Sucks. Once again. Las Vegas versus Seattle. So we finally get to go home after a 2-game road trip. Called this one a toss-up in my notes. That roster that they are building in Las Vegas is starting to mean something. That offensive line still could use some help, but that defense is the truth. Derek Carr is good enough, and they just got Devontae Adams, right? Darren Waller, Devontae Adams. Hunter Renfrow, great re-signing, by the way, Las Vegas. A little bit more money than you probably want to see a slot guy get, but his feet are sweet and his hands are sweeter. So, I respect that. It was a good call. I have the Seahawks losing that game too. That's just the kind of game we lose. That it is. I've been watching this team for years, and I despise the Raiders. And they will just not play well for that game. It's just going to be one of those unexplainable games where we've been pretty good, and then we just are not. All right. I believe after that is our bye week. So I want to say that's our week off after that. Then we come back versus LA on the road. Aaron Donald, Jalen Ramsey. Not good for Drew Lock at this point, maybe. Who knows? I think Gino's going to win the job. I hope he balls. I hope he stays the QB1. Who knows what's going to happen? Either way, that's a loss regardless of who's under center. That team is loaded. They're looking to run it back. If they stay healthy, there's nobody in the NFC that quite has a roster as good as them. But one injury, one freak bounce of the ball, one turnover that doesn't get overturned, whatever, you could be in a very different situation. But that's an L. So just in case you're keeping track, you guys, that's 4 straight losses in a row. That was painful to write down. It's just probable that it's going to happen that way. So then the annual game of Carolina versus Seattle is the next week. That happens every year, even though they're in the NFC South and we're in the NFC West. We play, I think we've played 8 out of the last 10 years. That game we should win. You want to talk about a bottom 3 roster, man. That is one of them for sure. Iquanu picking up that tackle was a great move. But they don't have a Christian McCaffrey. If he can be healthy, sure, of course CMC's a stud, but big question mark. Seattle should win that game. We have a pretty good record of going to Carolina and getting the dub, except for in the playoffs. Well, we're 1-2. Anyway, the following week is San Francisco versus Seattle. It's us back at home. And I have us winning that game. That's a toss-up. It's division. That's a bias game, you guys. Take it for what you want. If you are a Niner fan, comment below and let me know how wrong I am. I would very much appreciate it. That being said, being in Reno as a Seahawk fan, I don't know if you guys know how far Reno is from the Bay Area. It's not far. So, a lot of Niner fans around this place. And I hope they take that L right there. Seattle for the win, all right? So, this is a 2-game win streak, right? Feeling pretty good finally after a 4-game losing streak, Not bad. Could be worse. Then we go to Arrowhead. Old time division rivals from the AFC West. We historically play terrible in Arrowhead. If you've ever watched a Seahawk game, Tony Gonzalez absolutely used to just have his way with us. It was unpleasant to watch. Mahomes, top of his game. It doesn't matter who he's throwing to. Juju Smith-Schuster should do fine. MVS will be there. Travis Kelce's still a beast. We're taking an L on that one. I would love to win that game. God, I'd love to, especially in Arrowhead. That would be wonderful. That's an L, you guys. That's logical. So the extra game that gets thrown in from being the worst in our division last year is the AFC East Jets, who finished 4th in their division last year too. So that's our Week 17 game. Yeah, come on, Seattle, win that game, right? That's a win. Should be. I have us down for a W. So let's hope so, right? I mean, the Jets, man, to be fair, and once again, non-objective, the Jets have made some good moves this offseason. They have, bolstered that offensive line. They drafted that guard. Mekhi Becton's coming back. They have another good tackle. They tried to go out and get some wide receiver help, like Zach Wilson could take a step forward. They drafted that Breece Hall kid out of Iowa State who's supposed to be pretty good. Him and Michael Carter could be something. So from afar, I like what the Jets are doing. They look like they're on the right path. But Seattle gets that dub. Okay. Then last game of the season, Week 18, LA Rams come to Seattle for us to finish the regular season. We're not playing for the playoffs at that point. The Rams, it really depends. The Rams could absolutely have something locked up at that point. The Rams could be playing for the number 1 seed. The Rams could be playing for the number 5 seed. Who knows? It all depends on where the positioning of the playoffs are for the Rams, depending on what version of them we see. If we see the full strength Rams, that's a loss. Seattle, if they are out there needing to clinch something the last week of the season, there's not a shot, even if it's at home. So I would say that scenario is probably going to be the more likely one out of the two of them having something secured by that point. I think that NFC is loaded. Not so much as the AFC. The quarterbacks in the AFC anyway are just bananas. But that's a conversation for a different day too. All right, so total is 8 wins, 9 losses. Just under 500 since we have that 17th game now. It's double what I've been hearing, all right, from everybody else, even people that claim to be Seahawks fans. I don't want to overanalyze everything because there's still a lot of time left for the roster to take shape. I think it's going to be decent, you guys. 8-9 is not bad. Not with a quarterback heavy draft next year. We have 2 first-round picks. We're going to have cap room. 8-9, not bad, y'all. We just need Denver to not do anything, right? Make them go 0-17, get the first pick, and then that's ours. That's wonderful. Russ loses every game. Not going to happen. Anyway, that's my prediction for the upcoming season. So, yeah, double of what I've been hearing, okay? That's a bold prediction coming from a Seattle fan. I hope everybody has a good rest of their day whenever you may or may not be watching this. Comment below about what you think the Seattle Seahawks are going to do. Comment below if you don't like the Seahawks. Comment below if you think we're going to go 17-0, 16-1. I want to hear from everybody. Football fodder is the best. So watch all 20 minutes of this video, and I'll be back when I'm irritated enough to make another video, and people need to start putting some respect on Seattle's name. Go Hawks.